Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Southern Outdoorsman Podcast. We're doing some listener Q&As today, as always on Thursdays. We're also going to be adding a new segment to these Thursday episodes pretty soon that I'm really excited about. We're not going to tell you what it is, though. Jacob, how are you doing?
Doing real well. Super excited for Thursday episode. But Andrew, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Since I never ask you.
Yeah, I know. I'm doing pretty good. Been catching some bluegill lately.
Really?
So, yeah, life's been good, bro.
Well, thanks for telling me. Thanks for the invite.
I know. Well, I got the fly rods in the car. The pond over here.
You drive a car?
Or in the truck.
Okay.
Whatever.
Does it identify as a car when you go to fuel up?
Yes, it does. I wish it did with that MPG.
It identifies as a motorhome when you're driving down the interstate.
Yes, pretty much. Get 8 miles a gallon with the wind at my back, baby.
Put that sail up, baby.
Yeah.
We got a back wind. Listen, we got a tailwind. We're good.
Who did we interview on Monday? My mind just completely went blank.
Are you kidding me? Travis Lee and Jeff
yeah. Yep. All right, from Eco Wild. We've been sitting on this one for a little bit because I guess Eco Wild was about a month ago, give or take a couple days.
Yep.
And we recorded it there. And these live podcasts are always kind of hard to clean up from an audio standpoint because this one we had big old speakers on both sides of us that were piping through for like the whole room. And they came through on the mics a little bit, so it took a while to cut that out, but we got it cut up. And I was excited about this one because Jeff Baggett was going to be on it. And if you guys were listening last deer season, Jeff was the guy that we actually ran into when we were hunting.
Well, we didn't run into him; we ran into his trail cameras.
Well, we ran into his trail cameras, and you heard about it on the podcast. He pretty much immediately sent us a picture, I guess, on Instagram, or he sent you a picture on Instagram. He's like, "Got you."
Yeah.
So ended up talking to him a good bit and got him on this podcast. And there was a lot of interesting things said. I'll tell you, I am excited to talk to him just by himself, so we go a little bit deeper on some stuff. But it was really good to get to interview Travis again in person because we talked about a bunch of stuff that I didn't even know Travis did. We have interviewed Travis before. It was about chasing tracks with Travis Lee. I can't remember the exact episode number now.
I'll look it up. But
that was a really good episode. Basically completely centered around finding chasing tracks during the rut. So going through your clear cuts, going down your trails or your roads on your hunting club and finding where bucks are chasing does via, tracks crossing those roads, really fresh, and hunting in that general area, in a spot where you can see whether it be a cutover or a road bed. And that works, dude. That works really well.
So chasing tracks. So the first time we had Travis on, which is by far, guys, if you want like a pretty good rut episode, it's episode 432, targeting chasing tracks for big bucks with Travis Lee. Again, episode 432. It's a really good one. So I think we had some listener. I think right when it came out, we had some listener success stories because that was like, it came out in December 2022. And as we rolled into January, when a lot of the rut is, and especially like south central Alabama, even parts of North Alabama as well, we had some listener success stories come in, get submitted because of that episode.
Yep, definitely.
Now,
okay, wait. What were you about to go into?
I'm about to go into the topic from the episode and get your take.
All right, go for it.
Burst your bubble a little bit.
Oh, I already know where you're going.
They have more success getting inventory of bucks on big rubs than scrapes. What is your thought on that?
That's interesting.
Very interesting.
That's very interesting. I don't know. Like out of 580 some odd episodes that we've done, and we've interviewed a bunch of different guys, I think maybe they're some of the first ones who have said that. I mean, it's very few. Like, I can't think of any others off the top of my head who just straight up like signpost rubs for camera placement more than like a community scrape. So that's pretty interesting. And it just goes to show that, like, no matter how many guys there are out there who are deer hunting, everybody does something a little bit different. And there's no two people that hunt just alike. And one thing that I was actually thinking about this the other day, we've had the opportunity to interview like really good hunters, and in some cases we've even had the opportunity to interview those hunters' mentors. Like think of like Tony Myers and Jamie McKay and guys like that. Where like Jamie will tell you that Tony taught him so much, but you listen to them talk about their tactics and they're different. Like both of them are different, and it's just, to me, it kind of underscores the fact that a lot of the guys who are really successful, really like the magic sauce, the secret ingredient to them being successful is the fact that they kind of figured it out on their own. Like they figured out their own tactic. Jamie McKay probably picked up a lot of stuff from Tony Myers, but Jamie really made his own tactic. He got pointers along the way, but he made it his own, and that's what makes him a good hunter. And so all that to say that it's just fun to keep interviewing people, and you always find something new no matter how many times you do it. So the signpost rub thing has me super intrigued, one, for that reason, but two, and they mentioned this, those are super easy to find like any time of year, like right now in the summertime, and you can go ahead and throw a camera on them. And me and Mike are getting ready to do a scouting trip where that's pretty much exactly what we're going to be looking for after hearing this episode and talking to those guys. We're hoping to find licking branches, and we're hoping to find signpost rubs, and that's pretty much it. And we're going to go ahead and place cameras on some of those things, and just we might check them, we might not before season. But I'm really excited to actually try that out now, because I think I mentioned in the podcast that I've inadvertently had cameras on signpost rubs before, but they're kind of in the background, like that community scrape that you found that
Shed.
dead buck on. Yeah.
Not dead buck. Shed.
You're thinking of a different scrape.
Oh, where did I find?
I'm thinking.
Oh, that one.
So I got the buck on camera, and then you found him dead like 2 years later.
Yeah.
That one, where that buck was, there was a big signpost rub in the background, and I had more bucks on that signpost rub than I had on that scrape that the camera was watching. That's where I was mentioning.
To this point, that's not the scrape I thought we were talking about. Interesting.
Yeah.
Comes full circle.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I don't know where you're talking about. I don't know of a signpost rub.
Yeah, I didn't know either, but that's what I just assumed. Like, maybe there's one that I didn't see. I don't know.
Well, and
how many rubs over there?
So now tie this in with Daniel Williams, who talks about how it doesn't even really have to be a signpost rub. It can just be like a good rub line. Well, what are your thoughts?
Well, that's more so for just the overall pattern. That's not necessarily for buck inventory. Okay. So like he's talking about that from like the loop standpoint. Like if he's trying to find, going back to Daniel Williams' episode from a couple weeks ago, when he's trying to follow that sign and find that loop these bucks are running, at least a general loop. Like not all the deer are going to do the same thing, but just like a general path of travel. Even if he comes at the whip rubs, it's still a point on the map of like where these deer are coming through. And he's like, you can kill the biggest buck on that piece of WMA or your hunting club around that whip rub if it's actually on the travel corridor that buck's using in that general larger loop. So I don't think he's actually talking about putting cameras necessarily there. I mean, he did talk about putting cameras on just the trail itself, whether it had rubs there or scrapes or not. But I don't think he was doing that necessarily 100% from inventory. Daniel might write in and clarify for me, but yeah. I don't think it's the same thing. I think what they're talking about, like we saw a great example where Jeff had one or two of his cameras in a cluster of giant rubs. I mean, an area that's, a little bit bigger than where we're at, probably, 15, 20 feet in length, where there's probably 5 or 6, big
giant rubs.
Like big rubs.
Bigger than your calf. Look, you can hold up your leg for the video viewers. Bigger than Jacob's big old calf.
Check that out right there.
Patented watertight calves when he's wearing rubber boots.
Yep. Go look at the patent number. But he had that camera on there, and I remember when we found that camera, because I was with Mike, and I was like, man, that's cool. Like, he's got a camera here. That'd be kind of be interesting to see what he's getting on camera, but I didn't think he'd be really getting much. Like, probably just a couple bucks come through there. They hit them, and they're gone. They're not really coming back through that area. And after I ran to another one of Jeff's camera, because I think he got me on camera. I know for a fact he got me on camera twice.
He probably got you on camera more than that.
He said he got me on camera more than cameras I never saw. But
he probably got you taking a leak or something Something uncomfortable. Are you ever afraid of that when you got to go in the woods?
Break out the magnifying glass.
Let's get some YouTube comments on that one.
There you go. No, so you know who actually brought that up? This is a total segue in this conversation.
It doesn't have a telephoto lens.
Yeah, I know. I hope he's got real good zoom and great clarity. No, I'm joking, but it is what it is. Under promise, over deliver. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay. Is that what you've been telling ladies on your dates lately?
100%.
You're like, I don't have to worry about guys seeing my thing on trail camera if I'm taking a leak.
Paul.
Moving on.
About this. Paul Paterius brought that up when he's up in, I think, Jersey. He's like, dude, there's so many cameras out there. He's like, you actually have to pay attention if you're going to take a leak in the woods.
Oh, or what if you got to take a dump in the woods? I mean, that's even worse.
Well, hanging out, whatever.
Dude.
Grab a tree.
You got to go. I crawl up in a thicket. I ain't doing it out in the out in the woods.
No, I don't care that much. Whatever. It is what it is. But
How did we get on this subject?
I don't know, but Paul, because you were talking about, he's like, you're pregnant.
I could just imagine Tiffany watching this. She's like, "Yep, that's my husband."
Hey, best you could do, as Andrew said last week.
Hey, that's right. That's right.
Oh, I let my mom watch that segment. She thought that was hilarious.
Oh, I forgot about that. I need to make Tiffany watch that.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah, I'm sure she'd really appreciate it. Really. But I don't know how we got in the conversation. But anyways, going back to getting off this subject, but
all right,
going back to the rubs.
Jeff had all those rubs.
Had a camera around him. And that's where he was getting bucks consistently coming through that area. And like they'd smell the rubs. Sometimes they'd tie them up a little bit, but they're just kind of like walking right in front of the camera past those rubs. And I thought that was like just really interesting because the day I left, because I left early, I ended up not walking by that camera. I walked kind of down below it off the side of the little ridge. And I think it was maybe 30 minutes after I left, because everybody else had left, I had to go. I was going to go back. I had to go pack up some stuff before it got dark in order to leave because I didn't want to do it in the dark. Last 20 minutes of light, really nice buck. Walked right there, and he's like, "You should have stayed longer." And he knew I'd left because that buck showed up. Because he's like, "Bucks ain't showing up if someone's back there. The second someone leaves, buck shows up." But it was just such an interesting area, and it goes. I go back to think, you and me have both been in areas where, especially getting a creek bottom, and you just have these clusters of these rubs. Like you'll find them like kind of later October, getting to like mid to late November, like anywhere from like late October into like, again, late November, you'll find like these big cluster of rubs, pretty good sized rubs in a creek bottom, like just slapped in like one small spot, like the size of that. Y'all can't see behind the cameras, but there's a pool table right there, about the size of that pool table. There'll be 10 rubs, like on all these trees, just worn out, and it's like makes me wonder, what would you get on camera if you put a camera in one of those spots? And also, I've done that before. And I just thought about this. The trail camera, I think that when you and me met from social media on social media on Facebook, I had a trail camera in one of those spots down a creek bottom, had a cluster of those rubs, hung a camera at high, and I had a really nice 8-point come through there. I think some does and some other small bucks, but I only had the camera out, I think, for like 2 weeks before I checked it. And I think I've just pulled the camera. But they were coming through the area, had, again, a bunch of rubs all in this one little spot in this creek bottom, had a big drainage coming off the ridge, dropping down into it, and just had a flurry of activity in there. I don't remember if I ever had any. I might have had some daylight. Might have had one of those bucks in daylight, but I can't really remember. But it's like maybe that's something in addition to the scrapes we look for, something else that you also kind of focus on for maybe trying to throw a camera out here or there when you find that kind of sign.
Well, I want people from the lower coastal plain, South Mississippi, Louisiana, North Florida, South Alabama, South Georgia.
Now, what do you classify as South?
For like Alabama?
Mississippi, whatever.
I don't know. I'm not. Maybe south of Jackson, south of Montgomery, and then I don't know in Georgia. South of Columbus, maybe in Georgia. Just the fall line. Like if you look at the fall line, maybe below the fall line. I'd be curious to know if other people think similarly, like in that region. Are rubs better than scrapes? Like, do you find more of that signpost rubs because where you're talking about where all Jeff's cameras were? I find rubs like that. I'm not gonna say often, but it's not like super uncommon, to find big rubs like that. But finding like 6 of them all together, I'm trying to think back if I've ever found that many rubs that big all in one spot like that.
I have in Iowa.
Well, that's a little different than South Alabama.
Hey, a deer's a deer.
A deer's a deer. That's right. I'm trying to think have you ever in Alabama, Tennessee? Because most of our hunting in Alabama has not been in South Alabama.
Yeah.
Arkansas
definitely found it. 100%.
Okay.
Definitely. Like actually where some of our cameras were around some of those big clusters of rubs on freaking cedar trees that, one of them you can hang a tree stand in, no doubt. I'm trying to think. I know there's like some really big trees like that, but like Arkansas is probably the one spot I can think of where there would be a cluster of like bigger trees. And again, the species that you'd see them rubbed were like, I think it was not sycamore, poplar, and cedars. And you'd have like a little cluster, and it'd be kind of like that. Like when I saw that, it wasn't like, oh my god, this is amazing. It's awesome, but like I mean, I've seen that. Now, in other parts of Alabama, I don't know if I've seen that. I'm trying to think.
I was pretty impressed. I mean, I was actually very impressed. I mean, because like again, when you find one rub that's that big, you're like, oh yeah.
You should have seen the one on the other section I got to later in that hunt, where I told Jeff this, where I mean, there's tine marks up to my base of my neck on that tree.
Yeah.
Which there wasn't any like that I noticed on those 6 rubs or 5 rubs, whatever it was right there. But that one on the other section I got over to, there was, I mean, tine marks way high. And that's why I told them on the episode when I think it was, no, it was before we did the Q&As. I think it was just when we were talking about those historical rubs and those signpost rubs about, is it more about the diameter of the tree? Or is it the height of the tine marks? Because I'm always like, to me, height of tine marks, as long as it's not a tree the deer can bend over, where they can like push the tree over and they can rub it way, 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 way up the tree. And then once they let go of the tree kind of comes back up straight again like a sapling. But like a bigger size tree they're rubbing, if you get tine marks, especially for me, like up on my like upper chest, like almost the base of my neck, dude, that deer's got some tines, man.
Yeah, that's what I look for too. I actually look for the height of the rub more than anything else. Yeah, maybe we're missing out. Maybe in Arkansas, I'm trying to remember, did we have good luck on those rub lines with cameras?
Never. Yeah. Well, let me think. One of the better rub lines, I don't think we had a camera there. That's where Thomas had one camera that he left out all year.
Well, I was going back and looking through some of our old Arkansas cameras the other day, and I remember they were kind of underwhelming for when we started pulling all of them, and they were pretty much all on scrapes, weren't they?
Most of them, on mock scrapes. I didn't put a single one on a rub while I was there. It was all on like either mock scrapes or scrapes that we had found.
Maybe we missed the boat.
I know.
Maybe they should have been on rubs.
Well, there's a rub line. I know exactly where it's at, and the 2 years in a row I've been there, that rub line has been worked. And it's a transition edge between it's like Chinese privet. It's like a privet thicket, and it's like big hardwoods. They're like more open than the privet, but it's not like wide open like you can see maybe 30, 40 yards in it, maybe 50 yards max. And then every now and then it open up a little bit wider. But it's like right on that edge of like where some of that privet is, and there's like some cedars in the privet, and then like open timber, or more open timber. There's a rub line that cuts straight through. I mean, you can follow that rub line for 150 yards, 200 yards, and it goes all the way down to the water. And that rub line, the first year I hunted there was destroyed, and then last year when me and who was it? I think me and Thomas walked out that way one day in the afternoon or something like that. And it was more rubs right there.
Interesting.
Big rubs too.
Well, that gives me hope for some different areas, especially actually at the hunting club, because Mike did a little bit of scouting the other day out of the club and found a whole bunch more buck sign in an area that we haven't been to pretty much at all yet. It's a part of the club that nobody goes to. Again, it's one of those areas that no one really hunts. And I had gotten kind of close to it during turkey season when me, Sam, and Blakely were trying to do a big swing on this turkey.
You trying to bushwhack a turkey?
No, we were just trying to reposition, get on his ridge. So we were swinging around, and we ended up going down through some bottoms and some thin pines. And I found a pretty nice scrape down there and a couple rubs. Mike ended up going into the same area, but a little bit out of the way, like one ridge over. And he found a whole bunch of sign. Like he found a big scrape that has a licking branch about as big around as my thumb that's broke off at head height, like top of your head, where they were like grabbing it and they must have just ripped it down. So I've actually been thinking about maybe in a spot like that, because he was showing me the pictures of it, and I was like, they ripped down the entire licking branch. It's literally like, I don't know, probably 6.5 feet up in the air. Just broke off, and I'm like, I guess they're gonna quit using it because they don't have a licking branch anymore. So I'm kind of tempted to go get the like a section of rope and hang it.
Or that, or zip tie, the same species that they like to scrape on,
or do that, something like that, because it's on a totally different part of the club that I could picture there being totally different bucks on.
That would be interesting with the hemp rope, because you see guys do that using like a big heavy hemp rope, kind of fray out the bottom of it, and they use that as like a licking branch. Mm-hmm. So, that might be kind of cool. It'd be kind of interesting to test it there. But
I think
you ought to do both. You do the hemp rope, and then next to it, you zip tie again the same kind of limb, kind of strip it down, really good looking branch for them, kind of good diameter looking branch, and then secure the crap out of it to like the bigger limb, and see which ones do they like to use.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that little Southern Outdoorsman science experiment.
Yep, something like that.
Yeah.
And then also one thing that was brought up in this episode, and I already had one of our buddies call me, talk to me about this. This is the second episode in a row guys have talked about kudzu.
Oh yeah. Yep.
They'll
letting the cat out of the bag, huh?
Yeah, the old secret plant, man. Terrible for your timber. It'll kill your timber in a heart. Well, maybe not in a heartbeat, but it definitely grow up on your timber and chuck your timber out, your trees out. But they high protein, fast growing summer plant. We get on the farm. It's terrible to deal with, but it's crazy. And it was kind of like Travis was talking about. That's where in a couple of his spots, I think where he killed a real big deer, his 160 came out of some of that stuff. And then Kelly Moss from last week, he talked about the same thing. Like up in Tennessee, his spot that he hunts up there's tons of kudzu. And it's like they just live in that all summer long.
Dang, man.
So,
okay, interesting. Yeah, other people have talked about that too. I mean, Seek One, killing urban bucks. I mean, that's like what a lot of those deer are living in. Is big kudzu patches in suburban areas, which is not surprising. I mean, wasn't kudzu initially brought here as like a forage species for cattle or something?
Yeah, supposedly that, and then also for like roadside erosion control. And then it just kind of spread from there. I saw an old diagram. I don't know if it was from the 50s or 60s, where they showed how you could bale kudzu and like round bale it, which I can't imagine how terrible that would be. All the vines and crap. I mean, that just sounds terrible, dude. Like just tearing equipment up and everything. But where they would do it and they'd bale it for livestock, for like cattle and everything. So I don't know. But I know one thing for a fact, because we've got at the farm. Once it turns brown, like if it's yellow, like I think Kelsey talked about, even when it turns yellow or gets starting to change, it's just like soybeans. It starts changing colors, going to yellow, deer stop using it as much. But like at the farm, when it goes yellow to like brown, I mean, you're not going to find anything in it. And it's just like barren. It's just like it dies back so hard.
Yeah.
And then, just re-sprouts every spring. And that's what's crazy about it, is like when it re-sprouts, that sucker grows so fast.
Oh, I know. It'll be like creeping across the road.
So, long story is, don't plant it on your place.
Yeah.
If you don't have it there, so be it. But like, don't
you don't want it.
Don't transport it, guys. I mean, dude, it's killed a bunch of trees down there at the farm. A bunch of trees. So I mean, they grow way up in there. It's gnarly. I mean, especially like last couple of years, how far it's encroached on some of that stuff. And like we ran fires through it, and I mean, you torch it up, but it just comes back so hard. But if you do have someone in your place, like buddy Jimmy Stiles, he was talking about on his property, he's got a little more north central Alabama. He's got kudzu there, and he was talking about like the deer just being stacked in there in the summertime, and like it. Typically, at least in my experience, it dies out around when bow opener here is October 15th. Like it starts kind of dying back a little bit. But when we had a listener call, I think a listener wrote in, it might have been a Q&A or just a question. And he said he had a private property outside of Birmingham, and it had both Chinese privet and kudzu on it. And he's like, "What's your thoughts?" And I'm like, if you can manage the kudzu, great. Or it's not like killing your trees. And then like you kind of get your own non-native summer plot going, but other than that, it's if you've got it, you just manage it. But that was one thing Jimmy Stiles talked about, was we after the cab meeting, he went to lunch with us. He says in the summertime, what he'll do is, because like if you he'll put a trail camera like on a tree or on a stake on the edge of the kudzu, and he's like, if you don't weed eat around it, it will grow up like you can't find your trail camera. Okay, like it's gone like in the summer. But he says what he'll do, he'll go with a weed eater, and he'll stake it out or put it on a tree next to the kudzu where it's kind of like growing all around it. And he'll take a weed eater in there and he'll weed eat out a section like 30 feet in diameter and just all the way to the ground and like kind of grow back up. And he's like, the deer will be in that spot. He's like, you don't put any bait out, no minerals, nothing, put a camera there. He's like, they will be coming to that spot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. That is interesting.
Yep. So I'm like, that'd be kind of cool. Again, if you've got it on your property, maybe try that. If you don't have it on your property, don't transport it.
Yeah.
Just don't do it.
Next thing I wanted to talk about from the episode was Travis and well, really both of them, but especially Travis talking about how early season, like he's so confident in early season now. He killed that really nice buck in early season last year. I think he killed it on opening day. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know that you for sure have gone back and forth on early season. Because back when you were hunting in Tennessee a whole bunch, I feel like you were very confident in early season, and now here lately, maybe not so much. I don't know.
Well, it's like the feed trees, because like, dude, we're at hunting Tennessee, man. I kind of want to go back now we're talking about it, because I've got one spot in mind. It is such a great funnel, and there's feed trees there, and like you can go kill a doe there. There was bucks on there, and it's a awesome spot, sweet spot. But I think it's because like their season opens so early, the patterns aren't so flip flopped. I feel like down here by the time our seasons opens, especially October 15th, they've already done like 2 changes. Like they've been out of velvet for like a month, if not maybe more than a month, depending on where you're at. Some places like super South Alabama, they'll still be in velvet the first week of season. Like I've heard a couple guys talk about that, and they'll be in bachelor groups. But it's like for a lot of places we hunt, it's like they split up. They're kind of in bachelor groups, but they're starting like as the days of season go on. Like Scott Seals talked about this. It's like every day, like there's a chance that like every one of those bachelor groups are going to break up, and when they finally break up, it's like, or as they start separating, it's like it makes it slightly more tough to figure out, well, where did one go if you're trying to hunt a specific buck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like Alabama.
Well, I don't know. You say that we had a bachelor group. I shot my buck out of a bachelor group on November 19th last year or 18th, whenever opening day of gun season was.
That's true.
So I mean, I don't know. I feel like they do break up, but that's another thing I was thinking about the other day is that particular bachelor group, because the Big Ten was running with them, and he was with them, and he was with them all summer, all deer season up to that point, and then he split, and they stayed together, and then I killed the 6 point, and
I've got a spot now, thinking about it, and I'm probably an idiot for not hunting early season last year, because I went in there and found so much in October. Scrapes and rubs in an area they should not be scraping, maybe rubbing a little bit. But the size of rubs I found and the amount of scrapes I found in October blew my mind. And I hunted, I think, one morning, got in late, was walking in gray light. Deer were all around. I freaking busted deer out, sat on the ground, had another doe come down out of a clear cut right off the edge of me. I was down at SMZ. And I was going to shoot her, and just freaking busted me. But I want to go back in there, because if that happens again, and it was like a pretty heavy red oak crop, I think there might have been some white oaks dropping, but I remember there's a ton of red oaks. Those deer were so concentrated in that area. It's where we turkey hunted at, or where I turkey hunted at. I think you turkey hunted a little bit over there. And I think if you go in, I think my thought process, and we've talked about this, like finding whip rubs and kind of setting up on that, but like for real, like going out there within a week of season, and you start finding like, yeah, the feed sounds great, but like if you can find those fresh rubs like coming in and out of some of that cover, and just like, hey, I'm going to sit this first afternoon of the season when everything's right, try that. That's probably what I'm going to try to do in Alabama this year, is like just finding some of those areas, or going back to like where historically have I seen sign really early in the season, and go and try to set up on that, and maybe you just get another bachelor group in there, or that bachelor group's back in there, and you can catch them on that pattern. Because I never put trail cameras out there, so I don't know what exactly is there. Yeah,
I don't know. I've never been that confident in early season until last year. We had such a good early season last year with, like Mike getting a crack at the Big 10 point, and pretty much every time I hunted, I saw deer. So I'm actually feeling super confident with it this year, at least in Alabama. And then even in Georgia last year is pretty good. But I like what Travis was saying about how, like, you kind of overcomplicate it. Like, it's really not that complicated. And like deer, they're pretty simple creatures, especially like even a big buck, even in thicket country, they're still going back and forth to something.
Yeah.
And, we've talked about it a bunch of times. Like even the GPS data that we've seen kind of bears that out too. So like, just kind of demystifying what the deer are actually doing, and going out and finding the sign. And I can't remember if we talked about it on there or we talked about it somewhere else, but basically just saying like most of the time people are just not putting in enough effort towards going and finding this stuff, myself included. Like pretty much my whole life through bow season, I thought I was scouting enough, and then I've since learned that I'm definitely not. And just kind of like accepting like, I just wasn't doing enough. I wasn't walking enough. I wasn't checking enough spots. It's really, it kind of boils down to that, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's like also, other than like summer scout, it's like the most miserable time to go out there and just cover a lot of ground. It's like early bow season. Especially like, God, I mean, like the guys, like if you're hunting like Georgia early season and you're not hunting ag, September, it's hot, it's miserable. I mean, it's like the last thing you want to do is go try to cover 3 or 4 miles if you don't have to. And I think because of that, it's like part of the reason why I feel like in that circumstance, like myself, like getting lazy of like, I've watched a decent bit, but like, is it really worth it? And all it takes is like, you might have walked by something you just didn't pay attention to, or you're one drainage over from where the sign really is at.
Yeah.
Or you just didn't go quite far enough to get back into the area that the deer are really using that time of the year.
Man, I'll tell you what, I want to go back to Georgia, like just for like 3 days and go hunt that spot that we hunted in Georgia last year.
Come in from the backside.
And come in from the backside.
Really be the front side.
Yeah. Yeah. We got lazy.
Yep.
But man, dude, for real, I want to
tell you something.
I want to do that.
Good story about that.
Okay.
When we went back in there, that area is kind of like, timber with some like grassy cover around it. I was like, they're probably bedding there. Like, dude, it's too hot for them to bed in that crap.
Oh, yeah.
And what did Travis say?
Yeah.
Travis is like, that's what they're going to be in.
Yeah.
That like no, it was Kelsey who said that. That Johnson grass, just like thick, nasty, just grass, briars. He's like, they're in that stuff. And you're like, they ain't going to be in it. It's too hot for them. They're going to be in the shade somewhere off one of these points.
Yep.
And you couldn't find out they all came from the freaking grassy stuff.
Yeah,
grass cover.
That was actually a good point. I forgot I said that. Dang, dude, I can't believe it.
Crack that whip.
I can't believe that. Yeah, that was dumb.
Hey, listen, I'm bringing my receipts. But that's
in my mind at the time, I was like, well, they're not going to be in this like old field type stuff because the sun's on it and everything. But yeah, they were definitely in it.
Yeah,
I was wrong.
Well, if you looked at it, you had like saplings growing up in it. And it's like casting some shadows. It's
Oh
like,
yeah,
they could like easily just kind of move around, one of those trees and kind of stay in the shade. But now, like you said, if you had 3 days to hunt it, had a good wind, and you coming from the backside, long walk, coming from the backside or the front side, however you want to look at it, and get into that same area, dude. I mean, who knows?
And instead of going,
that might be worth actually going and put a trail camera on for.
Hey, I'm honestly I'm legit tempted.
Like,
a little bit.
like literally go out first week of August, make a mock scrape,
Throw a little camera out,
put a camera.
Well, because there were scrapes in there, dude.
That's what I'm saying.
There's scrapes.
First week of August, make a mock scrape, no scent, just kick it out. Do your business, bounce, and have it kind of like off that little logging road where like we were kind of accessing from, kind of in the direction of that point where the deer are kind of coming around from that old field kind of cover. Might be real good.
Yeah, it might be.
You might kill a chocolate rack hammer,
dude. You might. I mean, it has all the earmarks of a good spot. Man, that's so weird. Like thinking back on that now, like why did I think that? It's like, have I done this before? Like, what was I thinking?
Because I've like when I was living in Tennessee with that private land I had access to up there, it set up the same way. It was old field growth, and they were bedded in that crap on the velvet hunt.
Yeah,
like hot, nasty. Heat index with humidity 101 degrees, and they were out in that crap. So
yeah, it just goes to show that cover's king, I guess. And I don't know why I thought that. I'm gonna be thinking about that the rest of the day now. Be like, what was I thinking, dude?
Well, now you know. That's the thing. So like now kind of moving forward. If you decide to go back, I'm down to go back for a couple of days. I don't want to go for a week, but I'd go for a few days.
Yeah, I would go. I think if you gave it 3 solid days.
Look, you sit where I can see you. You see me. 50 yards.
We'll do some sign language.
Yeah, 50 yards apart, whichever side, big red oak that deer comes on, that's who shoots it.
Dude, hey, that would work for real. Hey, you might shoot a bear.
That's true.
On North Georgia, a little action up there.
That is true. That would be kind of cool. I doubt you're going to kill bear there, though, that spot.
I don't know. You never know.
I think they'll be in a little bit different area. But I mean, that's a kind of a good point, kind of looking back at, like, mistakes being made. It's, like, more than likely that's where those bucks – because, like, after walking some of those woods, because like me and Seth went in there, me and Nate went in there further back, there ain't no cover.
Yeah.
Like you get further back in there, they have to be coming from that like old growth, like field stuff.
Yep.
And it's like, because I get back there, we found more feed time. I'm like, there's nothing here for it. I mean, get some mountain laurel stuff deer could bed in, but it's not abundance of it. It's like little tiny patches.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I feel like if a deer was right there, I mean, yeah, he probably could bed there. Buck doe could bed there for sure, but it's like, I feel like they're going to want to be in something thicker or more abundance of cover they can move through without being in the wide open where, you see 200 yards.
Yeah, and that goes to show also just the benefit of going back here, like having experience in a spot, because we've got in that particular spot, we have a couple sits on it now, and we know where the deer were coming from, where they're probably bedding at. We know there was buck sign there at a certain time last year, going back to annual patterns, and we know exactly what the thermals and wind do in that spot. Because I took really good notes on Onyx when I dropped those
Suck it
pins
down into that drainage.
Yeah, so I took notes, and I've started doing this more and more, especially like the more places that you hunt. When I'm sitting in the stand right there and you're kind of, just waiting for like prime time, I dropped the pin on where we were hunting, and in the notes section of the pin, I said something about the thermals. And I was like, hey, this is the weather today. This is what the thermals are doing. So now I can look at that, and I know that those thermals are going to be just ripping. So you could come in and sit lower down on the hill, and I had several deer when I hunted there by myself that walked by me all in one spot. They all kind of took the same route. Get a little bit below that, your thermals are absolutely golden, and you just let all those spikes and does walk past you, and then right at dark, see who comes out.
That's the thing. And how do you get now? This is the question for that spot. And this kind of goes for the listeners. I got another point to bring up after this. How are you going to get out of there clean if you get all these deer work by you? You do a big loop.
Well, it depends on where they're going to, I guess.
Well, if they're going back up the ridge, like kind of going back off to your left, walking past you, I guess you'd have to drop down and do a big loop around that ridge, probably get out clean. I'd rather spook them down low than spook them up off the top.
I don't know if they work past you, like if they work past you and they keep working down that ridge, is like when they here again. This is why I like rappelling and the one stick, because let's just say in theory that these deer like move past and they kind of they crest over the ridge and they're going down one of those fingers. Then dude, I'm zipping out of that tree. I'm on the ground packed up in like 4 minutes, and then I'd probably go straight up and over and get in the opposite drainage from me and just walk in the very, very bottom of that drainage and just stay really low and try to avoid the ridge tops. That's probably how I'd get out of there.
Okay, interesting.
Or you just shoot that buck on the first day and you don't have to worry about your access or exit.
Man, you're a confident guy.
Yeah,
man.
bro.
Hey, you might go in there and find the biggest rub line coming right through there this year, first week of September. By the way, what point for listeners and also a point for me to pay attention to, same thing for you. If you go to walk into an area and you set up and the deer start coming from the direction you walked in from, take notes. Don't be like us. Like, we're just going to keep going in here. Like, why are they coming from that direction? Cover must be that good. I don't need to come, if I'm going to get into the spot, I need to come from a different direction or figure out like a different way to kind of circle into that spot.
Oh my gosh, that spot. Dude, that spot seems so good right now. Thinking back on it, oh my gosh. Because it's like on the backside. It's hidden. It's tucked away. There's good cover.
Yep.
Thermal advantage. Overlooked. And Shane saw a big buck.
Yeah.
Oh my,
I know.
Oh my gosh.
What were
Dude.
you doing?
I don't know. Interesting.
Instead, you decided to go climb some bluffs that one day.
Interesting.
You're trying to find you a timber rattlesnake.
Yes, very interesting. All right, well, I'm gonna have to ponder this for a while because, dude, I'm for real. I'm so tempted. Just drive up there real quick, do a little quick camp, extract a buck out of there. A little velvet deer, a little velvet action. You never know.
I don't know. I thought you don't want to shoot a velvet deer. What are you talking about? Andrew's got animosity towards velvet deer. He only wants to shoot hardhorn.
I'm just not. I don't know. I'm just not that into velvet. I mean, if one walks by me in velvet, I'll shoot it. But last year in that spot, I had like a 3-point or 4-point in velvet beneath me, and I just had zero desire. Like some guys, like all of y'all were like, y'all should have shot it because it was in velvet, and I was like, no, I just didn't. I don't care.
Yeah.
But he's all fuzzy. He's all fuzzy rack. And you got to do all kinds of stuff with it to preserve.
Fuzzy keychain.
Yeah.
Just freeze dry it. Drill through it. Put it on your keychain. Get a little split brow tine. No, a little split little 4-point.
Yeah, buddy.
But I'm trying to think. Is there anything else that Jeff and Travis mentioned that you thought was kind of interesting? I'm trying to think. Any other part of the conversation? I will say it was interesting kind of seeing the dynamic between Travis really now, especially more recently, really loving that early season opportunities for like targeting like specific bucks compared to the rut, because I think Jeff's work schedule. He talked about this in an episode, but his work schedule, he's typically busy through October, and also where he hunts, kind of sketchy going in there early bow season. You swimming with all the snakes. He's a little bit more of like a rut hunter, specifically, and having more time off during that period of time. And it kind of goes back to I'm dying.
Easy now.
It goes back to the aspect of there's so many different ways to be successful as whitetail hunters. Just figuring out what do you like the best. Do you like that early season feed to bed pattern? Are you a little bit more of like a rut hunter? Rut funnels, and so on. It's like everybody's a little bit different on like how they hunt and what they like to do. And it's like almost you just kind of figure out what do you like to do effectively. Like what do you feel like you're confident in? And it's hard to do that when you first kind of get started doing this, but I'm still a rut hunter. I'll be honest.
Yeah, me too. Let's get to some Q&As.
All right.
Let's get some Q&As.
All right, so appreciate everybody writing the new Q&As. Q&As can be submitted down below in the show notes, in the show description, both on the video version, YouTube version of the podcast, and also on Apple and Spotify. There's notes down below where you can submit your Q&As, and again, we answer those questions on these episodes. By the way, segue real quick before we get into it. Last week, we had our third Hunters Hangout meeting on Patreon, and it was fantastic. It was the best one we've done so far. And we actually started implementing. We had a couple of the listeners on there, Patreon members, asking about looking at some different spots on the maps, like some private land that they were hunting. And I think we're going to incorporate that into every Hunters Hangout. So we do these bi-weekly, every 2 weeks on Thursdays at 7 p.m. So next Thursday, 7 p.m. will be our fourth one. And what we'll do is once at least one property per video or per meeting, we'll do a video breakdown on. Kind of getting on, have the, especially we're trying to focus on some private land, private land specifically. Don't want to blow up anybody's public land spots, but to hop on there and actually look at and drawing similarities between what guests have talked about on maybe what they're looking for and actually showing it on the maps. And we did that with one of the guys, Cody, is that right? I'm trying to think. I botched his name. His property down in South Alabama, and dude, it was awesome. First off, one of the best looking properties I've ever seen. Diverse. I told him, I was like, if Andrew's on here right now, he'd ask you, what kind of membership availability y'all have. Which pretty much it sounds like you had to die. Someone had to die in order to get into that club.
Dang.
But it was awesome breaking that down. So if y'all want to kind of join that. And be a part of some of these meetings again every other Thursday, every 2 weeks, Thursday at 7 p.m. over on Patreon. You can join Patreon, patreon.com/The Southern Outdoorsman. It's for these meetings for paid Patreon members only, $5 a month, and we do these calls twice a month, and it is awesome. I absolutely enjoy it. And dude, we stayed on. Typically, it's supposed to last an hour. Starts at 7. We went to 9:30 that night, and we could have kept going.
Yeah,
like one of the dudes, listen. I guess his employer don't know, but he was on the video at work, and like you'd hear people come in, talk to him. He's like, "Hold on, guys," and put himself on mute or whatever. Like while he's talking to somebody, he's like, "All right, I'm back." And dude, it was an absolute blast. So y'all come hang out with us on those Hunter Hangouts over on Patreon.
That's awesome, man. That's super cool. All right, let's get to some of these Q&As. This one is from Jason Gamble from South Carolina. He said, I went back and listened to episode 190. Richard talks about don't use BS calls, only wood. He's referring to Richard Fott, talking about calling deer the right way. I think, is that 190? I think it's 290.
290.
It's 290. Richard might have been on 190 also.
He's been on a few times.
Yeah, he's been on it several times. But anyways, one of his big tactics is calling deer, specifically grunting up deer. And he says, which brand calls does he use or do y'all recommend using? Thanks, homies. Your show is, I'll just say awesome. Jason Gamble, a.k.a. Man Baby.
That's hilarious. Did he add another word before awesome?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Anyways, what does Richard use? It's like custom one from Arkansas. It's like Hattie-Bow?
Hattie-Bow.
Hattie-Bow?
I think it's Hattie-Bow who calls, and they're super hard to get. Like I had listeners ask about it, and the dude like produces like
beautiful grunt calls.
Yeah, he produces, and they're expensive. Like you're paying $170. I think he makes some a little bit cheaper, but some are like $170, $180.
Hattie-Bow, Hattybo, right?
So, yeah,
I think that's how you spell it.
But he doesn't have a website, nothing like that. But that's what Richard uses. But yeah, no, when he's talking about like that call, if you hear like a really good tuned wooden grunt call compared to like a plastic grunt call, it always seems like there's like a frequency difference between them.
Yeah.
Now I've heard some really good plastic calls, like plastic rubber calls as well. So like it really kind of comes down to your preference. I know you've had some success with the houndstooth grunt call.
Yeah.
Their walnut grunt. And it has that metal toning board on it, so like it's kind of cool because you don't have to like use a lot of airflow in order to get it to make a sound.
Yeah.
And it doesn't freeze, which is kind of cool because I had a call. I had one of those last year, and I had another call last year. I can't Messenger, I think, or something like that. Anyways,
that's a really good one too.
And I blew that, and it kept wanting to stick. It was one of those like real cold, windy mornings, and I blow into it, and like you just get saliva in there. It's kind of nasty, to be honest. Like, don't look inside of a grunt call, okay? looks like baby, baby drool. Anyways, but it kept.
What are you doing to your grunt calls?
I'm getting too excited. I don't know. I'm salivating, thinking about this butt come running in. And anyways, but I had the call keep sticking, and I had to like take it apart a couple times.
How intensely are you? Anyways, just keep going.
You know, I don't know if I can do a natural voice grunt as good as Kelsey did on the podcast.
Oh no, that was very impressive.
But anyway, I had to take it apart, just wipe it down, or whatever, and it was fine after that. But like I had to do that a couple times. But anyways, so yeah, there's a lot of cool calls out there, and actually, if you want to pick one of those houndstooth calls, I think you can still use the promo code SOP24 for 15% off.
Yeah, I think that might still work.
I think it's still active. So.
I like that houndstooth call a lot, specifically because one of my big problems with a lot of grunt calls that I've had over the years is that they take a lot of air, or or back pressure. You have to kind of add your own back pressure to get it to sound good.
Like cupping in front.
Like cupping it and cupping your hands in front of the tube to create like back pressure. And that houndstooth is like by far the easiest just grunt tube to work that I've had. And it sounds really good. The Hooks Messenger also sounds really good, but it's not quite as easy to run as the houndstooth in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I really, really do like that houndstooth call a lot. And it's like it was like years ago when I first met Lyle at some. It's probably the NWTF convention, and he was showing me, and he's like blowing through it, not even putting his mouth on it.
No, his mouth's like 12 inches away, and he's like just like blowing on it, and it'll go.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a really neat call. So super, super easy to run. So definitely recommend that. And then the one that Richard uses, you can find that guy on Facebook, I think.
Yeah, he doesn't have a website.
I don't think he has a website, but he turns them custom. So yeah, that's Richard. So that's what he uses. Let's see here. What do we got? All right. This one came in from Spotify. Didn't get the person's name, but you can leave comments on Spotify on our podcast episodes, and this is a recent comment we got over there. Not specific to this episode, but have you ever had an episode on what to do with signpost rubs or mock rubs? Only guy I've heard is Troy Pottinger, but he's combining it with a scrape. So this was left right before this past episode came out. So obviously we talked a lot about the rubs already, but mock rubs. Let's talk about that for a second.
Great way to throw people off your spots.
Mock rubs.
Put a couple of those around the parking lot, man.
Go find a terrible area. Go get you a machete that's got like this. I've actually done.
Serrated edge.
I've done this before. Get you a machete that has like some kind of serrated edge on it, or like a handsaw, like a little pocket handsaw. And dude, I mean, you go find you a big old cedar tree, and I'm talking about just go to town on that sucker.
Yeah, I don't know how it would. I've never put a camera on it, so I've done that jokingly in the past, but never like put a camera on it. So I have no idea if that would work.
Do you remember rub line slime?
Yeah,
we've talked about it before. Mm-hmm. That was a thing.
Well, there was
supposed to go put it all over rubs.
What's the biologist scientist that study mushrooms, mycologist or something like that?
I have no idea.
Y'all can correct me. I think it's mycologist, or I might be botching that. But there was a guy, it was last year, and he was curious about deer and like if they could see like UV, like frequent, like UV lights or anything like that. And he actually went and checked rubs and with a black light, UV light, and if they'd glow. They would just like glow like during the day, at night, whatever. I think he specifically tried it at night, and it would just glow like greenish white. And then I think he had somebody kill a deer, and he like shined the light, and he did a big post on it. I shared it. It's been long. I mean, it's been sometime
been a minute.
this is past fall. But he shined a light on also a dead buck's forehead, and you could see like it like shined right here, where like that preorbital gland or whatever, like one of the glands, whatever, like that.
The forehead gland.
Yeah, the enzymes, whatever, is just like kind of caked on there. And he had a theory, and I think he was submitting it to either Clemson, University of Georgia, or Mississippi State. I can't remember who he was going to submit it to, like the data he found, or just like this stuff to try to see if they'd study it, but just to see if there's any factor of like potentially deer could actually see that, especially like low light conditions and stuff like that. Because he's like, it was super apparent that like, you know, if for whatever reason, if they could see UV lights, or that reflection, they could possibly see it, and it's like a sign beacon. So it's like, because I think he mentioned like big rubs, like how easy it was to see at night with that black light, and it would like glow up. So I don't know, that's pretty fascinating. But long story short, I have no idea if you could have success with a mock rub. Never really tried it. Never put a camera on it. Try it in your backyard. Who knows? You get a club, maybe scrape one up. I know there's some companies that will sell like preorbital scents and maybe like the forehead gland scents or something like that maybe you could put on a rub. I don't know. Maybe you can try that, put a camera on it, see if it works. I have no idea, though.
I think I'm going to try it this year. That's super intriguing, actually, because it makes sense, because if you have an area that deer may be flowing through, going back to like Warren Womack's episode, like talking about flow areas, where you essentially just have an area that deer are coming through, but maybe it's 150 yards wide.
There's no pinch.
There's no pinch. They're just kind of flowing through this area. Potentially, I mean, if you find, let's say you got a big cedar tree that's like 12 inches around, and you just go and shred that thing.
You can get a workout.
Well, so you just go shred that joker, and there's a visual aspect to it, so they're going to be able to see it, and then that's going to release so much scent out of that tree that they're going to notice. And you probably get a buck to come up and rub it, and then it'd probably be like a mock scrape where, you know, you get that first one, and it's kind of like, you know, dominoes. Now another buck's going to come, and he puts his scent there, and then another buck comes and puts his scent. So I don't know. That's really interesting. It kind of makes me think of like when like you're using a dirt hole set to trap coyotes. Mm-hmm. Some people will make their dirt hole sets just obnoxiously large. Like they'll scratch out like this. It's almost like making a scrape. You scratch out this big area, and at the base of it, you'll put a hole in the ground like 6 inches deep, and you put your lure down in it, and you put your trap, you know, just offset where they're going to step on it when they go to sniff in the hole. But you scrape out a big area, so there's so much disturbed earth that it catches their attention, and that you can see it from a ways off. So, you know, like predators strolling through the area might see all that disturbed earth. And it could potentially be the same. I do the same thing with mock scrapes. So, like, when I make a mock scrape, I just make it obnoxiously large, and I think it helps them notice it faster. So I wonder if maybe rubs would be the same way. So I don't know. I don't know. Very, very curious. Very, very curious to have anybody write in who's ever done anything like that, or, you know, has any thoughts on it. I'd be very curious to get some YouTube comments or maybe some more Q&A submissions on that very subject. All right, last one. This is from Taylor Weeks from Alabama. He said, I've made an observation from the deer I've killed or seen in the past few years, and noticed that I have more success around oaks where the deer are eating acorns right off the sandy soil versus other ground types such as grass or dead leaves. Do you guys have anyone that has discussed this on an episode? Am I onto something, or is this pure coincidence? I love the show and all the content y'all produce, except for turkey. All jokes aside, thanks for the knowledge y'all bring every week. So thanks for the question, Taylor. And I know you have several listener success stories with us. He's killed a couple hammers. And he's wearing the Southern Outdoorsman hat, so I appreciate it, my man. So he's saying, found deer eating acorns off sandy soil versus other ground types. What is your thought on that? Interesting.
That don't help me out if I'm not hunting sandy soil.
My mind just goes to like a creek drainage, like a SMZ, where they're eating it, you know.
Off of some little sandbar or something down the creek.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, that might just be coincidence. And also, you got to realize, I mean, I think they've done some studies, if not, I know some like different habitat managers have like noticed this and documented that it seems like some trees, like some oaks, deer, just as long as they produce, like deer are more apt to feeding under like very specific trees than just like any tree. And, that's why people talk about, like, I've got this real hot tree on the place. Like, every year, if it produces, like, it is the spot to go kill a buck or go kill some does. I think that has to do something with that as well. I've heard some people talk about it might have to do something with the pH level in the soil, and, like, it produces an acorn maybe a little bit sweeter, has a different flavor profile. I have no idea, less tannins in it. But I don't know what that could. I don't know. Might just be a coincidence. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Long story short, we haven't interviewed somebody that has brought that point up.
No, but I've definitely seen what he's talking about, where you find that feed sign on that sandy ground, and usually it's like way down in a creek bottom, and usually it's right up on the creek. It doesn't have to be like a bank in the creek, like a sandbar in the creek. It might be where some sand's been deposited. And yeah, I would actually be. I think it would maybe have less to do with what the ground is like what the food is sitting on top of, as opposed to like there's something about that specific tree,
mineral
maybe
deposits.
Yeah, like a mineral deposit or something right there. Because if you have sand is deposited by water, so therefore if water's depositing sand right there, it's probably depositing other stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe those oaks have some more minerals
in them or something.
Yeah, I don't know. More fertilizer washing down the stream. I don't know.
That's true.
I don't know what it could be.
Also, some more Roundup.
But hey, I love that because you're just noticing like little details like that. That's awesome.
Hey, that means you're asking why when you go in the woods. That's an
That's
important
good.
factor.
For real.
Always ask why. Why is something working? Why is it not working? Why am I seeing this? Why am I not seeing this other aspect? Yeah, always ask why.
Yeah.
As
dude.
Jeff said, his number one tip, always try to learn something new every time you go in the woods.
Yep.
Which is just asking why.
Definitely. Yeah, that was actually a really good tip that Jeff put out there, was just learn one thing every time you go in the woods, ask why, and that'll bring you far, man. That'll definitely bring you far.
Yep.
So
You still excited about Kansas?
Yeah, dude.
We were talking to Clint about that earlier. We want to get Clint on the podcast.
Oh, we should.
Especially start talking about the safety of treating your clothing. Try not to get alpha gal.
Buddy got alpha gal.
Yeah.
It's a real bummer.
He gave away some deer meat today to one of my uncles. So red meat allergy, guys. You don't want it. Take care of it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, no, I'm still super excited for Kansas. I went through and cleaned up some pins the other day because I dropped so many pins, like irresponsible amount of pins, and so I went back through and kind of gave a bunch of areas like a second look just to see, and so cleaned it up a little
you
bit.
Cedars?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So, anyways, yeah, we gotta figure out Kansas. Hey, one thing that we said that we're gonna do is give away stickers for Apple Podcast reviews.
And Lord, by God, did y'all leave some reviews?
So here's what we're gonna do. Y'all left so many reviews that we ran out of stickers. So we have more stickers on the way.
So in the
meantime, y'all keep leaving reviews, and we're gonna do the sticker thing probably next week. I think they'll be in by next week.
Okay, cool. So yeah, anybody else that leaves it. So if you already left us a review last week, you're good.
Yes.
Well, if you haven't left us a review in the last week, go leave us a review. Apple Podcast specifically. We're not really you can leave like a 5-star review on Spotify, but you can't leave a written review. But on Apple Podcast, go leave us a 5-star written review. Let us know what you like about the show. Maybe some of the past guests that you really liked, or some future topics you'd like to see on the podcast. Write in, let us know, 5-star review, and then you'll also get sticker pack.
Yes, definitely. Also, last thing, we're going to be at the Mobile Hunters Expo later this month. I believe it's June 28th through the 30th. It's that Friday through Sunday. We're going to have a booth there.
Dalton, Georgia.
I think you're going to be helping with seminars.
Mm-hmm.
Did I hear that right?
Yep.
Jacob is doing a push-up contest between Michael Perry and Daniel Lemon.
Is that
Do it
it?
yourself.
Is that the only people doing it?
As far as I know. We could probably rope in Leopard to do it too.
I can't let Michael Perry beat me. That'll be, God.
Why are you talking smack about Perry?
I can't let him beat me now.
Yeah, dude. Well, who else you want? We ought to get Chris Leopard to do it. We ought to make Chris do it.
That would be very entertaining.
That would be hilarious.
I feel like he has to do it.
All right, Chris, you're challenged, brother.
Chris, if I got to do it, you got to do it, buddy. So if y'all know Chris Leopard, cut this segment and send it to Chris.
Well, so I've seen Perry practicing.
I know.
And he's doing it with all his gear on.
I know. Listen,
So,
I'm a little intimidated. I ain't going to lie.
so you been going to the gym?
Dude, listen, I got to put pepper on my back. Oh, dog, 49 pounds.
Dude, so I think Perry's going to make y'all do it with his stand on your back.
Does Perry see this? I'm carrying more weight than Perry is. Listen, that balances out. The age thing. Listen, Mike Tyson was about to fight. I heard he quit the fight. But dude, Mike Tyson's still fighting at 59 or whatever, how old he is, bro. That's all. Perry's got old man strength. That's a different game. I don't have old man strength. I don't have dad strength. Listen, Perry's going to be out there in his white New Balances, okay? Listen, jeans, shorts, the whole 9 yards, and he's going to knock out 60 push-ups, okay?
How many do you think you could do?
Not 60.
How many do you think
Maybe
you could
20.
do? You think you could do 20 in a row? You want to try it right
No,
now?
absolutely not.
Okay. We'll see it. We'll see it at the Mobile Hunters Expo. If you do 20 in a row, like good form, you can't be doing the little,
I got short arms, man.
bull crap.
I wish it was a deadlift competition. That's what we should do. We should bring your barbell and a bunch of plates and do a deadlift competition. Because Daniel ain't good. I'm sorry, Daniel. Love you to death, buddy. You ain't deadlifting. That'd be me and Perry. That'd be a great competition.
You probably smoke them.
Dude, deadlift or squat. I'd love that. That'd be awesome.
Push up.
I think we should bring your barbell and a bunch of plates and just slide it in there. And then, like, when we start doing the push-up competition, that's the first part. And then the second part, we got to do deadlifts.
First, you got to do push-ups, and you got to do deadlifts.
That would be entertaining.
All right, we'll see who can rep 315 the most times. I bet you'd smoke that. Actually,
Yeah.
You're really good at deadlifts.
That's my
That's your
competition.
thing. Yeah, that's the thing, dude. Man, all right. Well, that's going to be super fun. I can't wait for that.
So don't miss it. It's going to be a great time. There's a ton of awesome companies going to come there, or it's going to be at the show. It's going to be packed out. A bunch of past podcast guests are going to be there. I know Shane Parker is going to be a speaker. You don't want to miss his presentation.
Stuart Keene.
Alan Summerford and Kyle Leibar are going to speak, which are both past podcast guests. Again, Alan's killed more drop tine deer than anyone I've ever met, and he killed them all in Alabama. So it's going to be an awesome event. Last year we had Bobby Worthington come by, which is pretty cool. Again, past podcast guest, absolute legend, bow hunter in Southeast. So don't miss it. It's going to be a fantastic event. You can buy your tickets online. You can buy them at the door, whatever you want to do. Come hang out. There's going to be, I think it's Friday night. We have the first Friday night. We're going to do the live Q&A at the expo.
Yep.
Which I'll be hosting that. And then afterwards, we have the social, whatever.
Yep.
Like, we're going to go out to a restaurant/bar, go grab some drinks, grab some food, hang out, and we'll do that for a few hours that night. It's going to be a really good time. So,
yep. Yeah, it's going to be a great time.
If you want to come, talk deer hunting, whatever,
Yeah, come on. It's going to be awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Super excited. Are we going to be doing podcast recordings this year like we did last year?
Heck yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
They better have something else because we're using that for the podcast. You got to do that while I'm doing the seminars. You're in charge of that.
All right. Works for me.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll do some more podcast interviews because that was really fun. I liked that format last year. Interviewing 8, 10 successful guys, kind of getting some of their favorite hot tips. And this year, I'm sure there'll be some different guys from last year, so maybe we can kind of mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe get a couple of those guys on from last year, but also try to get some new blood on podcasts. Or maybe they're past podcast guests, but we haven't had them on for that segment.
Yeah.
And try to get some details. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, dude. Definitely. You got anything else?
Pay attention. If you want to be at the... Hey, listen. Notice these hats we're wearing. I'm going to mention it right now.
God, what are you
We're
doing?
be at the Mobile Hunter Expo.
Stop. You weren't supposed to say anything. All right, cool. Well, that's going to wrap it up. I'll let you do your whole spiel.
Wrap it up. Awesome, guys.
You made it the whole time. I knew you couldn't do it.
Good looking hats.
I knew you could.
All right, guys. We'll see you at the Mobile Hunters Expo here in a couple weeks. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for listening. We'll catch you back here on the next episode from the Southern Outdoorsman Podcast. And remember, guys, y'all stay Southern.